Hello, man. Hello, MGTOW. Hello, Ken. See how this thing goes here. Hello, man. There we go. Hello, Ken. Someone said I need a new microphone. I don't know if I need a new microphone or not. This is a new one. This is the Yeti. The Yeti's usually pretty good for podcasting, but you never know how long they're going to last. Joey, Steve Hoka asked me earlier. He says, Trav, why don't you review what you think of people that call MGTOW-selfish? And I thought that's a good question because we often go through this. We're called selfish individuals. We're not doing everything the society wants us to do. As a matter of fact, we fervently reject that because we know that it's just somebody else's selfish wishes and desires and everything. But we'll start off from the physiological, or not the physiological, the psychological view of selfish. What is selfish? When you're called selfish, you have to think about what it is when they're saying another person is selfish. It's like narcissists. You're coming from a position of narcissism when you say that to somebody. Imagine Narcissus looking in the water, looking back at his own reflection, which is him. That's what you have to imagine when someone tells you you're being selfish. It comes from the position of narcissism. We can expect that sort of thing because the whole world is narcissistic today. It's narcissism is terribly overused in our society, and men often get accused of being narcissists, especially men that take care of themselves, men that think about themselves, men that are independent, single bachelors that think about themselves. So that's basically covers MGTOWs, and most MGTOWs even. It comes from a position of shaming too. When you say someone, I've rarely ever said anybody in my life was selfish. It was a word that I probably wouldn't use for anybody. If anybody wants to do what they want to do, do what you want to do. Try that out. If it works, it works. If it fails, it fails. If what's yours is yours and what's mine is mine. That kind of cuts through that makes selfishness an irrelevant word. Selfishness is an irrelevant word to MGTOWs because we take that kind of special attitude, but it's interesting when we get called that, MGTOWs, you're being selfish. It comes from a position of narcissism. You're looking at a pool of water. Your narcissist imagine that situation. Narcissist looking down into the pool of water and looking back up at himself. Yeah, so he's talking about he's projecting what's happening when somebody calls you selfish. Is they're projecting. They're saying they don't think that you're doing something enough for them that you should be doing. It's a very selfish thing to say when you call someone selfish. It's one of those self-defeating words in the human language that should never, ever be used on anybody. And you're saying, well, you're not, or it's a very overused word. There probably are some positions that you could use it in, basically human consumption and stuff like that. You can use it in, and minor things, when someone isn't sharing enough within a family unit or something, you're not thinking about themselves. But to call in a social position, to call a MGTOW selfish for thinking about himself for probably the first time in his life, that comes from a position of narcissism. And we have to look at the world, and we got to look, do we live in a world of narcissistic people nowadays that would invade your space simply and say horrible things to us? Selfish is probably the least amount of things that they say to us. They say other horrible things. You're not doing this. You're not doing this for the community. You're not doing this. And what they're always they're saying is you're not involving within the community. And MGTOW, we don't involve ourselves with the community because the community generally doesn't care about us. And we understand that. So when they're saying that we're not doing enough for them, and that's a position of narcissism. And it's interesting when you think about these things. It's just something someone would flippantly say around here, and we hear it all the time that MGTOW is being selfish. We're not. We're just thinking about ourselves, and we have to think about what those people are saying. And it's a white knighting position. It becomes that man up position. If you were more of a man, you would think about everybody else around you. We get a lot of those kind of terms around here flippantly thrown at us from a position where people generally want something out of the men in America and other UK and most Western societies. The whole world is squarely set upon our backs, and when they don't get that no more, it comes from what was expected of us. That social contract that I was talking about the other day. There's that social contract where every man is expected to pull his weight, his, a million times over, lift his weight. And that's what you're saying. You're expected to be the slave. And when you refuse to be the slave, well, you're a selfish slave. What they really want you to do is say, I'm the best slave. And the shame goes in, and you and you internalize the shame, and you go, I'll be a better slave. But around MGTOW, we soon cut through a lot of this stuff. Most of this garbage rolls off our backs like water off a duck's back, because we see the motivations in it, and we see how they are motivated to get what they want. When we're dealing with a society of people that generally don't want to, they become accustomed. It's what's normalized in this society is they become accustomed to the thing I always use, and I hope I don't offend anybody on this, is the person that works in the furniture store. The person that works in a furniture store, they sell furniture. They don't really do any hard labor work, and they sell furniture. They make their money, and but they never participate in the agriculture of our country. They never make plows. They never go to the grocery stores. They never stock shelves. They're not the truck driver that moves the product back and forth. They're not a farm worker. They're not working on the farm. We've got a lot of those jobs, lighter than air jobs, where sales jobs. They're not participating in the hard labor of making steel. They're not the plumbers. They're not the electricians. They're not the steel workers. They're not making farm plows. They're not making farm implement. I'm having trouble with that one. Implements. They're not making tractors or any way at all participating in the agriculture of our country. And everybody likes to eat, but they don't want to do their what Mao would call the 8 years on the farm. So of course, we live in a society that wants men to do that. Men will go to work, and they'll go to the steel mills, and they'll develop these skills, plumbing, lawyers, not lawyers, electricians, they'll develop engineering skills and stuff like that. And the world wants that of us. We do it well. We build these things back here, all these things. But it becomes a normalized expectation from society when MGTOW pulls away from that normalized expectation of society. We seem to offend them. They want more from us, or what they want is what they always got from men. And they'll say things like, you're selfish. And that comes from, like I said, it comes from a position of narcissism. It comes from a position of laziness. It comes from a narcissist looking down in the water and reflecting back at his own reflection. It's a very narcissistic statement from a world that doesn't understand men. Now, what they would understand, if we're equally treated in this world, if we are fairly treated in the things that matter to us, with our children, with our mating schemes, and if we were treated with the proper respect that we have, there would be no question about men doing what men do. Most men like to go to work. They like to build things. They they like they like to see some kind of fruit of their labor. They want to see these big buildings. They want to look back at the wall and go, man, I made that wall. I did that. That'll last 100 years, 200 years, and I did that. That's what men really want in this world, to have some lasting impact on this world. But when we get in the societies that we live, where labor isn't well respected anymore, and women have lighter than air jobs, and um, everything is expected. The food is expected to come. The dog food is expected to come from the dog to the dog food store. Uh, Men do these things. The food you go to. I always said there's some people in this world that think magic fairies put that food on those shelves and lined it up perfectly. It must be. Look how perfectly it's all lined up. It must be magic fairies. No, them are the fruit and toils of men's labor. Them come from farms. It comes from truck drivers. It comes from a few guys on a few docks that they do that all day long. They lift those crates and they put them on this. They lift those crates and they put them on the pallet, and they mark them. This is going to store A. This is going to store B. This is going to store C. Warehouse workers. And they make those pallets and they ship them off and there's a whole distribution system that's based on men's backs. And in this society, we don't even respect that. Remember in the 80s and the 90s, when a men's back would go and they would shame them? They say, you don't have a bad back. There's only so many cases in a bad back. I think this is what caused MGTOW to happen. Nobody respects men anymore. Nobody respects the things men do. And they'll say, oh, you're selfish. You're selfish for getting that bad back and not doing that work. But it's a statement of narcissistic personalities. It's a statement of narcissism when they say, you're not doing what I need for me to be done. That's a very narcissistic statement. And we wonder why we look at women like we look at them. They start off automatically coming from a position of narcissism, like everything is expected, like the food is always going to be there. Well, a lot of really great men made sure that happened for you, from the lighting that the electrician came in and put in, to the flooring that the tiler came in to put in, to the plumbing so you can have little water sprays on your fresh fruit that the plumber came in and put in, up to your cash register that scans your food so you can self-scan your food on your way out. Well, that was a technician that works with PLCs. And it takes a mini picture of that, and then it analyzes it, and he programs those things, and he does a very good job at it. Mostly all men. So let's look at that MGTOW, you're being selfish statement. That's a very narcissistic statement, and it comes from a position of assumed narcissism. Like it's assumed that men are going to do that for you. I think that thing in itself is what makes a lot of MGTOWs. You look around the world that you live in, and all of us, most of us know that we did our 8 years on the farm. Now I'm working on 16 years. Now I'm working on 24 years. Now I'm working on 36 years. And it never seemingly is going to end. And I have to ask myself, when does my duty on the farm ends? While I look at half the other world that do lighter than air jobs, and their lighter than air jobs comes strictly from saying, you guys are selfish. We look at these migrant workers that come up and and they all they want to do is pick fruit and work on the farms, and it's very admirable of them to do that, so the rest of America doesn't have to do that. Now, you know my position on this. I'm a Maoist on this. I'm a Maoist. I'm the truest form of a Maoist on this. When President Trump said, if you want to eat, you got to work, I believe if you want to eat, you got to work. And fat ass President Trump, what happened to your work duty? What happened to that 8 years on the farm you were supposed to do? And more than 90% of those congressmen and more than 90% of those people in the House have never done their duty on the farm, but they sit and stuff food in their face like it's entitled, all on the backs of the working man. And then they'll say horrible, awful things about the working man. They'll make laws, right to work laws, that inhibits the working man from getting unions in his state so he can make a fair and decent wage and barter for his wage. It all starts with that "you're being selfish" statement, that statement of narcissism, because them people truly believe that they don't have to do the things some people, them people over there, those brown skinned people and those Irish people have to do. We're delegated to that, and we're relegated to that. And most men will know them things. Next time you hear the statement, MGTOW, you're being selfish, you should just not laugh that off. That should offend you. That should offend you, because that's coming from the most narcissistic people in the world. We're not being selfish. We're being reasonable. We're being reasonable. And we want other people, the people that don't want to participate in this thing, to participate. And then we won't have men walking around with broken backs and club feet. And remember your father hobbling in the house after he stood in a factory for 8 hours and falling asleep on the lazy boy, and your mother, oh, you're so lazy. No, he's exhausted. He's tired because he's doing a man's job for a man's wage. And women become entitled. They don't know where the food comes from. They think magic fairies bring it to them. Them are the people saying to us, MGTOW, you're being selfish, because they know one thing. If we don't do it, they're going to have to. And what would it be like if every American had to plant his own garden, had to tend his own sheep? Never underestimate yourself, men. You are needed in this society. You are needed to run the tractors and plow the fields. You are needed to grow the corn and to heave the corn in bales on the pallets. You are needed to get it to the store. You are needed to put it on the shelves. And that's not just food and agriculture. That's everything out there. That's from this shirt to this microphone. It's all on the backs of men and then narcissistic, selfish people. Say, oh, you men are being selfish. You will no longer do that for us. You're not involving yourself in society. You're not getting a woman and taking care of her for the rest of her life. Well, you know she's going to screw you over. And that's what I think about people saying MGTOW is being selfish. Then people inflame me. They inflame every sense in my body. They're just narcissists looking down into the stream, looking back at themselves. And when they say you're being selfish, they should ask themselves, what have I done for my country lately? Was I a soldier? Was I a fruit picker? Was I a man that lifts crates all day? Am I that 7-Up worker or that Coca-Cola worker or that Pepsi worker that throws crates of Pepsi into a truck so you can pop it open and drink it and never wonder where it came from or how much that guy's back hurts? Are you that person? We all ought to think about that, about doing our duties. Are we being selfish as MGTOWs? No. We're just taking away the one thing we know we can take away, and it'll hurt them. We're taking away these two big, strong arms. You can have a lot of things, but you can't have these two big, strong arms doing work for you anymore. We're not being selfish. We're being reasonable. And that's what I think about that. It was a good question from Steve Hoka, which we all know is not Steve Hoka. But, Steve, that's the answer to your question. When someone tells you you're being selfish as a MGTOW, it's coming from a position of narcissism. And they're the ones that are being selfish. They're the ones that want something from you. They're the ones that are looking down into the pool, looking and reflecting back at themselves. And that's it. That's all I wanted to talk about. And I want to keep it short and sweet for those people that might hear this. Not that I can't get myself uncensored, but hey, y'all take care, guys. Thanks, Pacific Coast and Riff Mangoes. I got to go take care of Dougie. He just walked out. And you guys take care. And thanks a lot for being MGTOW. MGTOW.